By now you've probably heard of the elevator game. It is a ritual that supposedly originated in Korea. If done properly, it will take you to a new world. An ethereal world where you will see a neon cross in the distance while finding yourself surrounded by the voices of the dead. But fewer people are aware of a similar ritual known as the Yggdrasil ritual. The Norsemen of long ago believed that the world we live in was one of many worlds on a great ash tree called Yggdrasil. There is a way to use an elevator to reach one of these worlds. This ritual is pulled off in a similar fashion to the elevator game, but it must be done in a building with an elevator and exactly 9 floors. Not all the floors need to be above ground though. If your building has 2 floors below ground and 7 floors above ground, that will work just fine. You will also need to bring a nut or berry with you. This will be used later in the ritual. You may perform the ritual with other people on board, but there is an important detail. Once you begin the ritual, everyone who started it with you must remain on the elevator until the end. If any passengers leave, or if any new passengers get on board, the ritual will not work. You may want to perform the ritual in a building near the end of the day, or when it is least busy, to minimize the chance that someone else will get on the elevator and mess up the ritual. As the ritual begins, enter the elevator and imagine yourself standing on the branches of a great tree. Visualize the texture of the bark, the leaves swaying in the breeze, and the sounds of birds in its branches. Speak the first incantation. O great Yggdrasil, I stand on your mighty branches. Take me to Asgard, the shining city at your apex. Press the button to take you to the top floor. Once you reach the top, recite the second incantation. O great Yggdrasil, I stand on your mighty branches. Take me to your roots, where the 3 Norns watch their well. Press the button that will take you to the lowest floor of the building. If the ritual is going correctly, when the door opens, a squirrel will enter the elevator. This is Radastuk, the squirrel who carries messages up and down the world tree. Give him the nut or berry. After Radastuk leaves and the doors close, go back to the highest floor, then return to the lowest floor. Here's where things get complex. The next 3 buttons you press will determine which of the 9 worlds you end up on. There are a variety of combinations, so some experimentation will be necessary. But if you enter a valid combination, you will find yourself on one of the 9 worlds. The first possible world is Asgard. This is the home of the Norse gods, known as the Aesir. This is the only world that has a fixed entry point. Those who have seen this world report the door opens at the foot of a rainbow in a sea of stars. This is the legendary Bifrost Bridge that leads to Asgard. In the distance is a great warrior in armor standing with a sword and a horn. This is Heimdall, the watchman of the gods. He will fix his gaze on you. Make no mistake, he is aware of your presence. After all, they say he can hear the sound of grass growing on Earth, so hearing your breathing in an elevator a few hundred feet away will be no problem. You might even catch a glimpse of the other Norse gods coming or going. The second possible world is Vanaheim. This is the home of a group of gods known as the Vanir. Reports indicate that entry points to this realm open into a meadow or a farmland. The deities that reside here are associated with peace and fertility, but don't think that always makes them peaceful. They can be fearsome warriors when provoked. The third possible world is Elfheim. This is the land of the light elves. When the door opens, you will see a vast blue sky with floating landmasses. Be sure to look before you step out if you decide to leave the elevator, for some explorers have reported that there might not be solid ground below you when you leave. Occasionally, you might see beings gliding on the winds. These are the light elves. The fourth world is Jotunheim, land of giants. This is a land of great and mighty land formations. Most reports indicate that the elevator will open up to reveal a forest of towering trees. The inhabitants of this world are indeed giants, estimated to be between 20 to 30 feet tall. Animals spotted in this realm are similar to the kinds of animals you'd find in Northern Europe, though they are 2 to 3 times larger than their earthly counterparts. The giants here tend to be indifferent towards humans, though some of their number are said to be very wise and skilled in the ways of magic. However, I imagine convincing one to teach you will not be an easy feat. The fifth possible world you might find yourself on is Muspelheim. This scorching realm is home to the fire giants. When the door opens, you will be greeted by a wave of hot air and see a rocky landscape baked by a sun that always appears at the zenith in the sky. There have also been reports of the occasional pillar of fire bursting forth from the ground. Temperature is similar to that of the hottest deserts on Earth. Those who venture outside the elevator had best be on their guard, for it is said that the fire giants are very hostile towards outsiders. If the door opens and reveals a cool, damp land of misty forests and valleys, then you know you have arrived on the sixth world, Svartalfheim. The sky is that of perpetual twilight. This is the land of dark elves and dwarves. The relationship between these two races is believed to range from indifferent to hostile. The dwarves tend to be suspicious of humans, but they will not go out of their way to harm or help people. According to Norse mythology, dwarves are skilled blacksmiths capable of making wondrous items, such as Thor's hammer or the chain that was used to bind the Fenris wolf. However, there are stories of people double-crossing these beings, and as a result, had to pay a very grave price for it. The Dark Elves are more enigmatic, so if you deal with one, extreme caution is advised. The seventh realm is Niflheim. This is the realm of ice and cold. As the door to the elevator opens, you will be hit with a blast of cold air. People who have reached this realm report the door will open to reveal a variety of landscapes, from icy wastes to pristine mountains to even beautiful snow-covered forests. Temperatures here seem to be consistent with subarctic and Arctic environments on Earth, so in theory, you could survive here if you are wearing warm enough clothing. Assuming the frost giants don't get to you first, of course. I imagine they don't see too many humans, so they probably will just see you as an exotic snack. The eighth world is Helheim. This realm is home to those who died unheroic deaths. It is said that Helheim is not necessarily a bad place, but it pales in comparison to the majesty of Valhalla. Those who committed serious crimes will face judgment here. One Norse poem tells that murderers and thieves will be forced to wade in a river of swords and knives while serpents spew venom on them. For those who are not deemed worthy of Valhalla, it is a bleak, but not necessarily unpleasant place. Travelers are advised not to leave the elevator, because Hel, the goddess in charge of this realm, is not known for letting people leave. If the door opens and you find yourself back in the building you started in, then you will have returned to the 9th world, Midgard, our home, the Earth. However, this does not mean you are safely home. There is a chance that you might find yourself on an alternate Earth instead. People who have survived the ritual and have been to these alternate realities report the year is the same as the year they performed the ritual, but some major historical event either never happened or ended very differently. Known alternative realities include one where Hinduism is the dominant world religion, a reality where John F. Kennedy was never assassinated and the United States established a permanent moon base, a version of the United Kingdom that is still an absolute monarchy, a history where the Soviet Union won the Cold War and never dissolved, a Japan that never entered World War II, and a reality where humanity has made successful radio contact with an extraterrestrial society. People who made it to these alternate realities were able to return home by performing the ritual a second time. Now, by this time, you're probably wondering what happens if you leave the elevator. I can tell you one known tale of a traveler who did just that. The reason he left is because he had a friend who was able to hold the door open for him. Otherwise, he might not have been so bold as to venture forth. He found himself in Svartalfheim. Soon after he left the elevator, he saw a group of elves with dusky skin. The way they reacted, he assumed that they could not see him until he left the elevator. The traveler took out his cell phone to take a picture. One of the elves took this as a sign of hostility and threw a dart at him. Fortunately, the attack missed, and the traveler was able to make it back to the elevator. When the doors closed, they found the wayward projectile stuck in the elevator's wall. However, I don't know whether the traveler kept it as a souvenir or whether he got rid of it as soon as the opportunity presented itself. Well, that is the only story I am aware of anyway, involving a person leaving the elevator. Perhaps people fear what will happen if the door closes. You may very well find yourself stranded on a strange world with no means to return home. But maybe, just maybe, someday a brave, or perhaps foolhardy, soul will be able to explore that theory.